When Stranger Things premiered, it instantly became a pop culture phenomenon, mixing 80s nostalgia, sci-fi horror, with a core cast of characters so unforgettable. Now, almost 10 years later, Season 5 will end the series that we all know and love. Today, we're diving into 107 facts about the season that started it all, from BTS moments to all the 80s references that you might have missed. Let's take a trip back to Hawkins with 107 facts about Stranger Things Season 1. Let's get started. Number 1. Stranger Things was created by twin brothers Matt and Ross Duffer, professionally known as the Duffer Brothers. Before Stranger Things, the Duffer Bros had previously made the film Hidden and served as writers on episodes of Wayward Pines. Number 2. When you boil it down, the essence of Stranger Things is an amalgam of all the things that the Duffer Brothers loved growing up, with a core pitch that can be simplified to, what if Steven Spielberg directed a Stephen King book? Number 3. Funny enough, before jumping into developing Stranger Things, the Duffer Bros considered adapting Stephen King's It and even tried to pitch their own version. But since the Duffer Bros were fairly unknown and unproven at the time, Warner Brothers weren't interested and didn't even give them the time. So they decided to create their own original story instead, comparing it to how Spielberg couldn't direct James Bond but created Indiana Jones with George Lucas. Number 4. The working title of the show was Montauk and was originally set in the coastal eastern Long Island town of Montauk in the 1980s. Number 5. Why was the show originally called and set in Montauk? Well, we can point to the Montauk Project conspiracy theories. These were theories that claimed that the US government was kidnapping kids on Long Island and were conducting secret experiments at Camp Hero in Montauk, New York. Number 6. So what happened to Montauk? Well, the Duffer Bros found some logistical challenges with shooting a winter show on Long Island, mainly that it was too difficult and too expensive. Instead, the setting shifted from coastal Montauk, New York to the fictional suburban town of Hawkins, Indiana. Number 7. The Duffer Bros took inspiration from Cold War paranoia and the experiments that took place during that time, such as Project MKUltra. This placed the series in 1983, but also allowed them to ground the supernatural elements with some science. Number 8. Because the series was set in the 80s, this allowed the brothers to pay homage to all of the things that inspired them the most, which explains all of the Spielberg and King works Stranger Things references. Number 9. When pitching the show, the Duffer Brothers were rejected multiple times, with Matt estimating it to be somewhere between 15 to 20 times from various networks. In short, the networks didn't believe in the concept of 4 kids being main characters in a show that wasn't meant for kids, and wanted the Duffer Brothers to shift focus to Hopper, which Matt rejected wholeheartedly. Number 10. The first role that the casting team looked to cast was Joyce Byers, and for that, the team was looking for someone iconic, and the person that the casting director first thought of was Winona Ryder. This was exciting for the Duffer Bros, as they grew up with Winona Ryder in the 1990s and felt that they hadn't seen enough of her lately. Number 11. Winona Ryder was convinced to join Stranger Things after speaking with the Duffer Brothers for about 4.5 hours. Funny enough, they barely talked about the show and the character, and was just chatting to get to know each other better. Number 12. In the original Montauk pitch, Joyce Byers was originally going to have a thick Long Island accent. However, with the shift to suburban Indiana and Winona Ryder's casting, the Duffers took more inspiration from Roy Neary from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Ryder's performance for Joyce Byers, however, ended up being influenced by Ellen Burstyn in Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, Marsha Mason in Max Dugan Returns, and the film Audrey Rose. Number 13. It was Ryder's idea to have Joyce Byers' hairstyle in Season 1 inspired by Meryl Streep's look in the 1983 biographical drama Silkwood, directed by Mike Nichols and starring Streep in the lead role alongside Kurt Russell and Cher. Number 14. In a Harper Bazaar interview, Winona Ryder said Stranger Things was the longest commitment she had ever made to a role, since she had never done a series and had only been given a pilot. Her one request before signing was that the Duffers allowed her time to return for Beetlejuice 2, a sequel she and Tim Burton had been trying to make for over 15 years. And seeing as Beetlejuice came out recently, I can say that it was a success. Number 15. During the audition process, Matt and Ross Duffer made the child actors read lines from scenes from the film Stand By Me. The Duffers and casting team auditioned 906 boys and 307 girls for the core group of kids, making them read scenes from the film. Number 16. According to executive producer Sean Levy, the Duffers saw dozens of kids that were exceptional but wouldn't cast them because they were looking for a certain type of authenticity and real-life oddness to them. Number 17. Of the kids, the first to cast was Gaten Matarazzo, and the Duffers Duffers casted him after watching his first audition tape, with Matt Duffer stating, "When you see someone like Gaten and he pops the way he does, you're just like, this kid, we're putting him on the show 100%. Number 18. When the Duffers decided to cast Finn Wolfhard as Mike, they learned the very next day that director Cary Fukunaga also wanted him for the film adaptation of It. When Fukunaga's version fell through, the Duffers were relieved to keep Finn for Stranger Things, but were later thrilled when he won the It role again under a new director. Number 19. Finn Wolfhard, despite being so young and definitely not growing up in the 80s, already watched all the movies that the Duffer brothers had assigned the cast for research. It's always nice having someone that's a subject matter expert in the group. Number 20. Wolfhard's character Mike was originally named Elliot, which is a direct reference to the main character of E.T. Number 21. The most difficult character to cast, according to the Duffers, was Eleven. They were worried a child actor would struggle to stay in character during scenes without dialogue, but when they met Millie Bobby Brown, these worries disappeared. They even said Millie was something special. Number 22. While typical Netflix originals at the time were closer to 12 to 13 episodes in length, the Duffers pitched the show as an 8-hour show, and Netflix said, "Okay, cool, here's 8 hours." This was exciting for the Duffers, as this provided filmmakers newfound flexibility, and because they didn't know how they would make the story 13 episodes if they had to. They would feel like it would be like dragging through mud if they had to do 13 episodes. Number 23. Episode 1's very first shot, the one where the camera starts at the night sky and pans down to show Hawkin's National Lab, is a reference to E.T.'s opening. Number 24. With the series being inspired by the Montauk experiments, it's pretty obvious that Hawkin's National Laboratory was inspired by Camp Hero. Number 25. The opening scene with the scientists running away from the Demogorgon, or the escaped creature, as we don't know what it is at the very start, is inspired by Alien. Number 26. The kids playing Dungeons & Dragons is another nod to E.T., where the boys are also seen playing D&D while eating pizza. Number 27. The D&D scene was the first scene the Duffers shot. They were worried about the chemistry among the child actors, but those concerns disappeared once the boys' natural chemistry made it seem like they had been friends their whole lives. Number 28. When Dustin asks Nancy about the pizza, we know that it's specifically a sausage and pepperoni pizza, is a direct reference to the pizza order from that very same E.T. scene. Number 29. When Dustin bets Will any comic for winning a race home against him, Will asks for X-Men number 134. Number 134 is the first appearance of Dark Phoenix, a mutant with telekinetic powers, alluding to 11, another telekinetic individual. Number 30. X-Men number 134 also features Dark Phoenix pinning the villain Mastermind to the wall, which is similar to how 11 slams the Demogorgon into the wall towards the end of the season. Number 31. In the original pilot script, Will instead wanted Dustin's Uncanny X-Men number 269, which wouldn't have made much sense since that issue was released on October 10th, 1990, almost a decade after Stranger Things supposedly takes place. Number 32. What doesn't make sense is that the watch Dustin wears is a Casio F91W, a model released in 1991, 8 years after 1983 when season 1 takes place. Number 33. The Duffers called the scene where Will runs into the shed to hide from the Demogorgon a blatant homage to E.T., where Elliot makes first contact with E.T. at the shed. Number 34. Now on to the iconic intro. For those interested, the typeface used for the Stranger Things logo is ITC Bengat. You can find this typeface used for a lot of horror books, specifically Stephen King novels of the 1980s. The Duffers sent Imaginary Forces, the team designing the titles, 12 different old covers of Stephen King books. Number 35. The red neon title sequence was inspired by the work of motion graphics legend Richard Greenberg, who created titles for Alien, Superman, and of course, The Goonies. Number 36. Jim Hopper, the Hawkins police chief, is modeled after Chief Brody from Jaws, in more ways than one. The most obvious is that his uniform bears a strong resemblance to the one worn by Chief Brody. Take a look at the Hawkins police patch alongside Brody's Amity Police. Number 37. The scene where Hopper uses a typewriter to type down a police report for the missing Will Byers while he's talking to Joyce is framed identically to a scene in Jaws where Chief Brody does the same. Instead of typing shark attack for Chrissy's death, Hopper types missing for Will. Number 38. So we know that the show originally took place and was named after the beach town of Montauk, Long Island. Montauk, New York, similar to the beach town setting of Amity Island in Jaws. But why? The Duffers have said that Jaws is probably their favorite film, so it comes to no surprise at all that Stranger Things is heavily influenced by it. Number 39. Hopper's hat was inspired by the hat Indiana Jones wears. You can thank David Harbour for that idea. Harbour wanted Hopper to wear the hat as an homage to the adventurer. Number 40. The Duffer brothers revealed that David Harbour asked if they could have a giant boulder rolling towards them at one point in the show, you know, like what happens to Indy in the films. The Duffers didn't know if David Harbour was joking or not, though. Number 41. Nancy and Steve's romance is similar to many romances of the 80s where the nerdy girl falls in love with the dude that peaked in high school. I mean, the popular boy in high school. Number 42. When interrogated by Hopper and the police, the boys refer to the wooded area/road in Hawkins as Mirkwood. This is the name of the Great Forest in J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth, located near the Grey Mountains, which Bilbo Baggins, Gandalf the Grey, and a group of dwarves venture through in The Hobbit. And don't get that wrong or Dustin will get mad at you. It's The Hobbit. Number 43. The password to Castle Byers, Radagast, is a reference to a wizard or Istari featured in Lord of the Rings. Number 44. When the boys pull up to the edge of the woods on their bikes, it references the Goonies, where the boys in the film also pull up outside the Fratellis' hideout on their bikes. Number 45. Eleven's backstory, which were drip-fed throughout Season 1 and then continued throughout the other seasons, mirrors Charlie's from the Stephen King novel Firestarter. In Firestarter, we learn that Charlie is a superpowered girl, similar to Eleven, who's taken by a shady government organization to exploit her powers. We see scenes of Charlie hooked up to electrodes, again similar to Eleven's backstory. And lastly, a little bit of a stretch, we can see that when the girls use their powers, nosebleeds are involved. Number 46. Millie Bobby Brown's performance as Eleven was inspired by E.T., with Brown revealing that the Duffer Brothers basically told her she was going to be an alien. Number 47. According to the Duffer Brothers, Eleven was also partly inspired by Lucy from Elfenlied, describing her as a very violent, anime-ish E.T. Both characters possess extraordinary powers, escape from labs that experimented on them, kill numerous people, and form bonds with boys who show them kindness. Additionally, Eleven shares traits with the Diclonius Nana, as both refer to their scientist guardians as Papa and are identified by numbers, Nana being 7 in Japanese. Number 48. The E.T. inspirations shine, literally, in the way that Mike and the boys discover Eleven. Similar to E.T., where E.T. is discovered when a flashlight shines on him, Mike and the boys shine a flashlight on Eleven as they search for Will in the woods. Number 49. The Duffer Brothers reveal that, apparently, when they were going to film for episode 2, Millie Bobby Brown showed up to the set covered head to toe in glitter, which delayed production for about 30 to 45 minutes. Funny enough, they said that this is exactly the type of problem that you would get from a child actor instead of an adult actor. Number 50. Eleven serves as an E.T. stand-in, as we've been saying. Mike hides her in his home, much like what Elliot did to hide E.T. in the film. Although one is a superpowered human and the other is an alien, both Eleven and E.T. become newfound friends to the protagonist and must be protected as they hide from the bad men pursuing them. Number 51. Adding to the E.T. parallels, Mike pretends to be sick so that he can skip school and spend the day with Eleven, similar to Elliot doing so with E.T. Number 52. When Eleven looks at pictures of the Wheeler family, she points to a picture of Nancy and calls it pretty. The dress that Nancy is wearing in the photo is the same dress that Mike will eventually lend her in episode 4, but more on that later. Number 53. The scene where Eleven recognizes Will in the photo amongst Mike's trophies is shot similarly to a scene from 1985's Witness, where a little boy recognizes someone from a photo amongst a bunch of trophies. Number 54. The reason Eleven recognizes Will isn't explained in the show, but it is expanded on in the comic Stranger Things: The Other Side. In the comic, it follows Will's point of view in the Upside Down during the events of Season 1, and it includes moments where Eleven's psychic abilities briefly connect with him. This helps explain why he seems so familiar to her when she later sees his photograph. Number 55. The shot of the Demogorgon trying to push through the wall is inspired by The Nightmare on Elm Street, particularly the scene where Freddy Krueger starts pushing through the ceiling. Number 56. With Barb's scenes in the Upside Down, we finally get to see what this mysterious dimension looks like. The Upside Down's falling ash-like substance was inspired by Silent Hill. According to Aaron Sims, whose VFX studio worked on the show, this substance was used as visual shorthand to distinguish between the real world and the Upside Down. Number 57. Another inspiration for the look of the Upside Down was the works of Polish painter Zdzisław Piłsudski, which I definitely butchered because I'm using Google to find out how to pronounce this name. But basically he specialized in the field of dystopian surrealism. Aaron Sims says that his hellish and otherworldly imagery served as the inspiration for the general look of the Upside Down. Number 58. Despite her minor role, Barb was extremely popular among fans. Her early death is what inspired social media trends such as #JusticeForBarb and #WeAreAllBarb. Honestly, you had to be there. It was kind of crazy how big this character was for what little she had in the show. Number 59. When discussing the Upside Down, Matt Duffer said he believes it's scarier when you don't fully understand it. The more that you reveal and the more that you comprehend, the less scary it gets. Number 60. Nancy's lie about the missing Barb being in the library turned out to be correct. Technically, In episode 3, while trying to figure out where Barb is, Nancy calls Barb's mother, and during their conversation, Nancy lies about forgetting that Barb was in the library. Well, fast forward to what we know now, and Barb was indeed in the library. I believe she was dragged into the library where they're keeping all the bodies. Number 61. The way Holly looks at the Demogorgon trying to push through the wall in Will's room is a reference to the multiple horror and sci-fi films like Poltergeist, E.T., and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where the child unknowingly experiences the supernatural or extraordinary. Number 62. Speaking of Holly, she actually is played by twins, Aniston and Tinsley Price. The Duffers, despite being twins, couldn't differentiate between the two of them while filming, even though they wished they could. Number 63. Some of the Duffer brothers' favorite scenes with Holly were improvised, such as when the family is arguing in episode 1, or in episode 3 when Joyce asks if she saw something in the wall, and she just replies yes. Number 64. In Poltergeist, an ordinary household object, which in that case is the television, becomes a gateway to something supernatural and spooky. The Duffer brothers took inspiration from this idea and applied it to Stranger Things, but instead of a television set, they turned simple Christmas lights into a way that Joyce can communicate with Will. Number 65. Using the Christmas lights, Will spells out "right here" to Joyce, which is a similar phrase to what E.T. said in his film, and was an intentional choice by the Duffers to pay homage to E.T. Number 66. According to the original script for Stranger Things, it was actually the teens, Nancy, Jonathan, and Steve, that used the Christmas lights to find the Demogorgon. However, one of the writers pitched the idea of Joyce using them to communicate with Will from the other side. Number 67. Episode 4 is titled The Body, which is a reference to The Body, which is a Stephen King novella that adapted Stand By Me. Number 68. While we're on the topic of Stand By Me, there's a scene in the show where the kids are walking along some railroad tracks, which is very similar to a scene in the film Stand By Me. Number 69. Executive producer and episode director Sean Levy makes a cameo appearance in this episode, playing the coroner that Joyce Byers can be seen arguing with about Will's fake body. Number 70. Will's fake body was so realistic that the Duffer brothers played a wild prank on Noah Schnapp's mother by hiding it in a dark closet and showing it to her. She was shocked at first, but afterwards she was seen taking pictures with it and sending them to her friends. Number 71. Will's fake body was made with a cast of Noah Schnapp's head and a full body cast of a very petite woman, due to the fact that special effects makeup artists don't like doing full body molds of children. Number 70. The state trooper that finds Will's body in the quarry is named David O'Bannon. His surname is taken from Dan O'Bannon, who wrote Alien's screenplay. Number 73. Eleven's makeover in episode 4 parallels E.T., where the alien is also dressed up in a frilly dress and a long wig to hide their real identity while walking around in the public. Number 74. When Eleven wears her disguise, she looks in a mirror and comments that she looks pretty, which is the same comment she makes when looking at the photo of Nancy back in episode 2, and funny enough, it's the same dress that Nancy's wearing in that photo as well, so it's a nice little callback to that earlier episode. Number 75. Joyce picks up an axe and puts on her best Jack Torrance impression in episode 4. Taking cues from The Shining, Joyce hacks at a wall similar to Jack Torrance hacking through the bathroom door. Number 76. In episode 5, The Flea and the Acrobat, while Nancy and Jonathan practice shooting in the woods, Jonathan reminisces about the time his father forced him to go hunting and shoot a rabbit on his 10th birthday, making him cry for a week. Because, as Jonathan mentions, he's a big fan of Thumper from Bambi. Number 77. The Upside Down is first referred to as such in episode 5, but was almost called something else entirely for the show. The original internal name in the writer's room was The Nether, which honestly doesn't sound nearly as cool or endearing. The Nether was intended to be the true name, while the Upside Down was just Eleven's way of describing it, but the term was so popular that it just stuck. I can't imagine calling it anything else, honestly, but also if it was called The Nether, I'd get confused thinking people were talking about Minecraft. Number 78. For the isolation tank scenes featuring Eleven, Millie Bobby Brown was fully submerged in an underwater tank. She used a Sea Trek helmet to breathe underwater, which, if you didn't know, weighs 70 pounds above water. Number 79. When Hopper and Joyce visit Jane, in her room, there is a framed illustration of the White Rabbit from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. A story that, of course, centers around a child falling through a portal into an alternate world full of strange and magical things. Sound familiar? Well, the magical things maybe not, but the strange, yes. Number 80. The 1973 Ford Pinto that Hopper drives around is an homage to Stephen King's Cujo. In that film, the main characters are stuck inside the car after it stalls out, and they gotta defend themselves from this rabid dog. Number 81. In episode 6, a cinematic shot of only someone's shoulder is shown as Mike and Dustin leave Bradley's Big Buy. This mirrors a similar shot of Michael Myers' shoulder as he watches Laurie Strode leave the Myers house in the film. Number 82. The Demogorgon is more inspired by Jaws than you think. The Duffers had had this to say on the Demogorgon. Quote, "It is an interdimensional being that has more in common with the shark from Jaws than Pennywise from It. When the monster enters our dimension, it's like a shark breaching the water. Very much like a shark, it drags its prey back into its home where it feeds." Number 83. You might notice that, starting in episode 6, Lucas dons a camo bandana. That was actually an idea by Caleb McLaughlin, Lucas's actor, which the Duffers okayed. Number 84. The bike chase in episode 7 was directly inspired by the iconic chase in E.T., except the Duffers subverted viewers' expectations. Instead of lifting the kids into the air like E.T., Eleven uses her powers to flip the vans in pursuit. Number 85. The Duffers consider episode 7 their most purely fun episode of the season because of the bike chase scene. The scene wasn't planned at all originally, but they opted to film it since it felt fitting to the plot, outside of it just being another E.T. reference. Number 86. The van flip was shot practically without the use of CGI. The Duffers considered this very stressful. During their first attempt to film the scene, one of the explosives under the van didn't explode, which caused it to skid into one of the cameras and cause damage, costing production thousands. With a bit of convincing higher-ups, they managed to try filming the scene again a second time, which played out perfectly. Number 87. A detail that we can see at the Wheeler's house is that the dining chairs and floor patterns are the same as those found in Poltergeist. Number 88. Eleven floating in the kiddie pool wasn't a special effect of some kind, it was completely practical. All the crew had to do was fill the pool with 1,200 pounds of Epsom salt, increasing the water's density and buoyancy so that Eleven could float. Number 89. David Harbour eventually did get his Indiana Jones moment. The scene where Hopper bursts through a bus to save the kids was shot to look like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Number 90. In another Indiana Jones reference, the shot of the snake coming out of Bar's mouth is an homage to the Well of Souls scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Number 91. A Dustin and Chunk parallel from The Goonies is over some sweets. During the final showdown against the Demogorgon, Dustin's excitement over finding chocolate pudding is similar to Chunk's excitement over finding a fridge of ice cream in The Goonies. Number 92. The Duffer Brothers have stated that they like The Last of Us, which, while unconfirmed, might explain the inspiration behind Hopper's tragic backstory with his daughter Sarah, and how it parallels Joel's relationship with his own daughter, Sarah. Number 93. One of the things you might not have realized until the end of the season is that Hopper wears a braided blue bracelet throughout the season. These were Sarah's hairbands she wore when she got sick. Number 94. After Mike and Eleven kissed and the director shouted, "Cut!" Millie Bobby Brown got up and said, "That's kissing? That's it? That sucked!" This was her first kiss. Number 95. Before their kissing scene, they ate an entire container of Tic Tacs. And now I'm getting flashbacks to my very first kiss and how nervous I was, so I understand the Tic Tacs completely. Number 96. Eleven's longest line in season 1 is exactly 11 words long. It's, quote, "Mike, I'm sorry. The gate, I opened it. I'm the monster. 11. Number 97. The scene of the kids taking on the Demogorgon with a slingshot is a clear nod to Stephen King's It. In It, Bev Marsh famously uses a slingshot as a key weapon during the Losers Club's first battle against Pennywise. You know, when they're kids. Number 98. Steve Harrington was meant to die before the end of season 1. They couldn't remember exactly when Steve was supposed to die, but the Duffers credited Steve's actor Joe Keery for changing the trajectory of the character. Number 99. The original plan for the fight against the Demogorgon was for the Byers patriarch, Lonnie, to return at the very end and fight alongside Nancy and Jonathan. But those plans changed, and the role was given to Steve Harrington instead. Number 100. Stranger Things gets its Twin Peaks moment at the very end. Just like the very last scene of Twin Peaks Season 2, where it's revealed that Agent Cooper is possessed by an evil being, Will coughs up a tiny monster, presumably from the Upside Down, revealing that there's a little bit of the other side still left in him. Number 101. Season 1 takes place over the course of about a week in November, a little before Thanksgiving time. Every season of Stranger Things takes place on or around a certain holiday, but later seasons seem more intentionally centered around these holidays. So Season 1 feels like a little bit of an outlier, while still paying tribute to this little fact. Number 102. Over the course of the season, Nancy's style shifts. At the start of the season, she can be seen wearing dresses or skirts in lighter colors, but by the end of the season, her wardrobe shifts to darker colors and jeans. Number 103. On a more subtler shift, by the end of production, Gaten Matarazzo's voice had changed so much that it was impossible for the sound team to use him for pickup lines. You gotta remember, back when this was being filmed, he was just a growing boy. So, puberty took over. Number 104. Although the show was shot on a digital red camera, the team wanted a vintage film look for the show. Colorist Skip Kimball achieved this by adding overlays of scanned 1980s film grain, giving this series an authentically aged retro look. Number 105. Kyle Lambert was inspired by Drew Struzan, the renowned artist behind iconic Indiana Jones, Back to the Future, and Star Wars posters when creating the main Stranger Things poster, drawing on Struzan's style to honor classic 80s movie art. R.I.P. Number 106. The show has a bunch of winter scenes, and to create snow for the wintry look, the crew shipped over 20 tons of ice to the sets from Florida. Number 107. Stranger Things is obviously packed with Easter eggs and references to all things 80s, and there's a reason for that. The Duffer Brothers have said that this show is an ode to their childhood, and it's built from the movies, books, and VHS experiences that they loved growing up. And that's all for 107 facts about Stranger Things Season 1. What did you think about this season? Personally, I think because the first season's so isolated and was written to be one season, it feels the strongest and I love it the most, and it's my favorite season. But let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Excelsior!